So you hear these stories and you went to Gaza, you saw what you saw. You came away calling it comparable to apartheid. In what respects? What are the similarities that you see?
The similarities are so stark. Maybe just mention three. The one is how the movement of people are being controlled by the checkpoints, by the Israeli security police in the occupied territories of the West Bank. The second is how the processes of land alienation is gradually happening. People being estranged from their land, many agricultural workers being denied the opportunity through the apartheid wall to be able to visit their lands. And the third one is obviously the psychological damage that it creates for people. I have seen very small children that at the times when gifts are being shared, often the children would request that they be given a gun because they have seen so much violence, so much hatred coming from people who are oppressing them.
I'm assuming this was some of the topic that was discussed, some of what was discussed at the United Nations this week on International Day of Solidarity with the Palestinian people. What were the main change points? What are people calling for to change?
I think that one of the most important things that happened this year that has been different than previous years was that the President of the General Assembly, Father Miguel de Soto, who's a Nicaraguan priest, I think many will remember him from the Sandinista years when he was the foreign minister of Nicaragua, but he serves in that position not representing Nicaragua, but as an individual, and which means that he's free to say what he believes, not being bound by his country's position. And he gave two extraordinary statements yesterday in which he spoke not only of the parallels with apartheid, and of course, one of the things that's so important is the role not only of the immediate parallels, as Eddie has said, with South Africa, but the fact that Israeli policies stand in violation of the international covenant against the crime of apartheid, which makes it part of international law. That was one of the great achievements, of course, of the global movement against apartheid in 1973, passing at the United Nations the international covenant. And Father Miguel spoke of the responsibility of the United Nations to use the word apartheid. He said we must not be afraid to call it what it is. And that's extraordinary. The people in the UN, despite the international covenant on apartheid, which makes clear it's not only about South Africa or Namibia, that it's about any country that has specific laws and specific legal mechanisms of discrimination.